Hey guys, today I'm going to be replacing the thermostat on this 2017 Cadillac XT5. The reason I'm replacing the thermostat is because I'm seeing the steering assist reduced display on my driver information center. This vehicle is out of warranty since the powertrain is 70,000 miles or 6 years, whichever comes first. Now if you're watching this, you're already out of warranty since it's past 6 years. Now the code that would display when you use the OBD2 scanner would be P0128 and U0401. Here's the thermostat that I'm going to be replacing today with the pipe and O-ring gasket. Some people just remove the O-ring gasket and put on the old one since it's hard to remove this pipe itself. 6 intake manifold gasket. The engine coolant temperature sensor is right next to the thermostat, so it's easier to just remove it and replace it. And the coolant air bleed pipe gasket O-ring, you'll need 2 of it because you're removing it, and it's just might as well just replace it since it's right there. So the first thing you need to do is go ahead and drain your coolant. If you haven't done so, go ahead and watch my other video on how to drain and refill your coolant. After that, you're going to remove the cover of the engine, and then the intake manifold itself, and the airbox throttle body tube right here. Alright, to move the cover, there's a 10mm bolt here. You can use a 8mm socket or a flathead screwdriver to remove this clamp. And another one right here and right here. And to remove this, you're going to have to lift it up and pull it out. It's a snap-on connector, so I'll show you later. So loosen the 10mm bolt, 8mm clamp, another one here, and another one in the back. To remove this PCV hose, you're going to press up on this clip, and then you can pull back to remove it. Now remove everything. So the cover sits on this 2-prong on the grommet right here. You just pull it up really hard. Alright, now we have to remove the map sensor connector, the evap emission canister connector right here, and the tube, and the bracket that holds down this tube as well. So to remove this connector, you pull back on the red tab, and then you pinch the back of the clip and you move it. Same with this one. Now for this one, you press the top down to disengage the clip, and then you pull it out. Now for this bracket, you pinch the tab and you pull it up to remove it, and then you pull the tube out. And then to remove this plastic hold down, you get a long needle nose plier, you pinch the bottom and you lift up. So you pinch the bottom right here and you lift up. Next, you're going to remove the throttle body connector. Don't be like me and break the top clip. The gray piece is on top. It holds the connector down. So what you have to do is press on the gray part to disengage the little hook right here to push it down and then pull out. But it doesn't affect the performance, so it's already connected. Now I just have to pinch or push down on the plastic piece right here to disengage the connector and then pry it out. Just like that. Next, you're going to remove 2 radiator surge tank outlet pipe bolts. They're 10mm. I'm using an extension to get to it. Alright, so there are 9 bolts that's holding down this intake manifold. There's one in the front that is a 10mm bolt. And then there's 8 in the back. So there's 1, 2 in here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 13mm bolt. Now we're going to lift up the intake manifold and out. Oh, and make sure to remove this clip as well. So here is the intake manifold opening. Looks like there's rat droppings in the back there. Make sure to cover it up before anything falls down in there. So I covered it up with some paper towels, and now I'm going to vacuum up all the rat droppings. So here is the thermostat, and it's held down by two 10mm bolts, and the coolant air bleed pipe is held down by two 10mm bolts. You have to remove this two 10mm bolt to get access to the thermostat down here. And the engine coolant temperature sensor is right next to right here. It's connecting right here. And then you're gonna have to replace the gasket on this pipe, the coolant pipe right here, that runs all the way to this radiator hose that you gotta remove, and it's held on by a 10mm bolt down there. So that's what we're gonna try to get access to the thermostat. Now I'm gonna remove the air coolant bleed pipe bolt. They're two 10mm bolts. It's coming up. I'm prying it up, and it's coming off. There you go. There you go. The second one coming out. So we're going to change the gasket on this, or the O-ring. So I'm using a big vice grip to clamp this clamp down on the radiator hose so I can remove the hose. I'm trying to use the flathead screwdriver to pry it out of the place. Now the hose is a little loose, you could just pull it out. You gotta wiggle it slowly. Make sure there's no coolant coming out as well. So I have a drain pan on the bottom. Now I gotta remove this foam pad that's in the way. So remove this clip that's holding on to the bracket. There you go. Move this as well. So what I'm doing right now is to give it enough room where I can lift up this pad. I kind of made a small rip so I can move this little pad down here to get access to the 10mm bolt that's holding this bracket right here. As you can see, this is how it lay, and this is the 10mm bolt that you need to take out to wiggle this out of the thermostat. So that's what I'm trying to do. So if you can, you just have to feel for it and to get the socket in there and to remove it. I can't film it down there. It's a really tight space, so you're not going to see anything anyways if I'm going to film it. So just make sure to move some of these part out of the way to get access with the ratchet down there to remove the 10mm bolt. So I loosen the 10mm bolt with a short 10mm socket.
So to loosen the thermostat housing pipe, I remove the 10mm bolt. I'm using a pry bar between the valve cover and the pipe, and I just tap the top a few times to loosen it. Once the pipe is out, go ahead and loosen your thermostat.
And there you go. Go ahead and pry the O-ring out. There's the old one. And then the new one, just remove it from this one and put it on the old one. Sure it's around the groove. You're good.
So for the engine coolant temp sensor, you need to pull on the red tab. Once you pull it up, you're going to need to squeeze the black tab to remove it. Use a long needle nose plier to press on the black tab and pull it up.
Alright, now I'm going to remove the engine coolant temp sensor with a 15mm crow's foot and an extension with a 3/8 ratchet. Once it's loose, I'm using a long needle nose plier to pull it out.
Alright, make sure to buy the right ECT sensor because I bought one on Amazon and they didn't have the washer or the thread sealant. So I had to run to the dealership and buy a new one, which they have the thread and the washer with it. So make sure you get the right one. Alright, so to put back the ECT sensor, I'm using a 15mm socket.
That's very short, and I'm just holding it like this. So I have leverage to guide it in and put it in with two hands. I can't show it to you, so I'm gonna have to have it in, and then I'm gonna show you how to tighten it.
So once I have it in, I'm going to use my finger to turn the socket.
So once it's in, I'm gonna use the crow's foot to finish it off and tighten it down. So once it's done hand tightening, I'm going to use a torque wrench to torque it down. So I'm going to torque this ECT sensor down to 6.6 foot-pounds. Alright, now to put back the engine coolant temp sensor connector, make sure aim the blue tab into the hole. Once it's in the hole, go ahead and press down on the connector. You hear a snap. Press down on the red tab. And it locks in place.
Alright, now it's time to install the thermostat. Make sure you have the right part. Here's the old part.
And here is the new thermostat. You can put it down and in.
The reason why I put a rag there is so that I don't drop any tools. Make sure to remove it. So this thermostat came with its own bolt and grommet that's inside, so I'm going to use it.
I'm going to hand tighten it first. It's a 10mm socket.
So torque this thermostat housing bolts down to 89 inch-pounds, which is 7.4 foot-pounds. Next, I'm going to push the thermostat housing inlet pipe back.
Push it back into the thermostat. And then I'm going to put the 10mm bolt back in. It's right here on the side. You wouldn't be able to see all this without the fuel rail here. So once you get the thread in a little bit, what I like to do is use a 10mm socket to tighten it down. So I got a 10mm socket. I'm going to hand tighten this thing down.
Next, I'm using a 1/4 ratchet with a 10mm socket to tighten it down.
Alright, you want to hand tighten this to 89 inch-pounds, which is about 7.4 pounds or so. I'm using a small ratchet, so I'm just hand tightening with the ratchet until I feel like it's snug. I just want to let you know that usually this is not how it's supposed to look.
I removed the fuel rail already and I'm doing another video on that.
and the fuel feed intermediate pipe is here as well. Usually it's in the way when you're doing the thermostat, but this is not how it usually is. But if you really want to remove the thermostat housing pipe right here, then you have to remove the two fuel rail, one right here, the bank 1, and one right here, bank 2. So if you want to get access to this thermostat housing pipe, then you're going to have to remove the two fuel rail to get it out and to completely replace it.
Some people just replace
The O-ring on the thermostat housing pipe, and that's all they need to do. It's metal, so you don't have to worry if it's going to crack or break. So that's what a lot of people do when they are doing their thermostat and replacing it. All right, next I'm going to replace this coolant air bleed pipe O-ring. You get 2, so make sure to buy 2 of them and don't misplace them like I did. So I went to the dealer and got 2 new ones. So I'm going to replace it now. So remove it, just get a pick and dig in there and peel it out. Make sure don't drop it anywhere that's not intended to be. Same with the second one. So here's the new one. Just gonna have to work your way out into the hole and expand it and put it back into the notch right there. So it's in now. Same with the second one. There you go. All right, now we're gonna put the coolant air bleeder pipe back in. All right, I'm gonna lube the O-ring with WD-40 so it's easier to put in, because you don't want to put it in dry because it's gonna get stuck. You're gonna torque this to 89 inch-pounds and just hand tightening with a 1/4 ratchet with a 10mm socket. Don't overdo it, it's small bolts. Alright, next I'm going to put this coolant hose back.
I gotta clamp this big clamp to get back on the hose.
There you go. So what I did with the clamp was I opened the jaw wide enough so that I could have it over, and then I
Tighten the top piece
with a spin wheel, tighten it down until it
catches it, and then it's tight.
and then that's when I'm going to squeeze the clamp down and then
lock it in place.
move it into its place. So that's how I did with the vice grip.
Before you install the intake manifold,
make sure to replace your intake manifold gasket. There's 6 of them right here.
And it only goes in one way.
As you can see, there's a curve right here, and there's a straight line right here.
It only goes in one way, so make sure to remove the gasket and wipe it clean.
And then put in the new gasket.
So I'm using brake clean with a rag to clean the surface dry. If you want to avoid any lint, you could use paper towel.
Time to put on the new gasket on. Like I say, it only goes in one way. So push it in. That's it. And now it's ready to go back into the vehicle.
Before you put your intake manifold back,
make sure to clean the mating surface on the intake. I'm using a paper towel and brake clean. I'm spraying on it.
Then I'm just wiping
the mating surface clean of oil and residue so that when the intake manifold gasket sits on it, it sits cleanly and doesn't have any debris in the way of it.
Alright, once you're done with that, make sure to remove any paper towel, rags, or napkin that's blocking the intake manifold before you put it back in. Alright, install your intake manifold. Hand tighten these bolts first.
To make sure it fits into the thread.
So now I'm just tightening down the bolts with my impact gun, and here are the torque sequence for torquing down the intake manifold. It is 18 foot-pounds. Make sure to follow 1 through 8, and then the last bolt that you're going to torque down is a 10mm bolt that's in front of you. So make sure to start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
And the 10mm down here is about 80 inch-pounds or 89 inch-pounds, one of those. Shouldn't be too tight, so just hand tighten it with a quarter ratchet. Make sure to put these cables back in properly to their mounting bracket. The black tab goes on the bottom and the gray tab goes on top, just like that. Next, I'm going to tighten down the 10mm bolt for the radiator surge tank outlet pipe bolt. There's 2 of them. Torque it down to 89 inch-pounds.
Now go ahead and connect your connectors and hose back together. This is the throttle body. This is the PCV hose.
And the other connectors. And make sure to put the clip back into its hole. Make sure to push back the red clip as well.
Now we're going to put the top cover and the PCV tubing back.
Make sure the grommet sits on the top of the 2 pins in the back. Tighten this 10mm bolt in. About 80 inch-pounds. Then plug back in the PCV hose. There's 2 of them in the back. And then you're going to tighten down the 3 clamps, 1, 2, and 3 in the back. Go ahead and refill your coolant. I have a video on how to drain and refill on the coolant, so you could just refill the coolant and you're done with this thermostat replacement on this 2017 Cadillac XT5. Hey guys, I just replaced the thermostat, the engine coolant temp sensor, replaced the O-rings, and then
I top off the coolant.
as you can see, the driver information center, there's no more steering assist, is reduced, or the check engine light P0128.
If you guys have any questions, go ahead and leave your comments down below and I will answer as best as I can.